चित्रस्यां दशिदेवतात्मा हिमालयो नाम नगाभिराजः पूर्वापरौ तोयनिधिव गाह्य स्थितः पृथिव्या इव मानदण्डः. Okay. We finished with the sixth. We have to start with the seventh. Kadachid asanna sakhi mukhena sa manorathajnam pitaram manaswini ayachata aranya nivasam atmanaha phalodayantaya tapassamadhaye. So Parvati somehow, through her friend, she conveyed the message to her father. She tried to tell her mother that she wanted to go and do tapas, but then menatu tatra magacha ityuktam menaya. So she was trying somehow, and there will be repeated attempts to get permission. Yeah. So somehow through her friend, her father got to know about it, and and she asked Himavan to go and do tapas. Okay. The next one is he giving permission. Himavan gives permission to Parvati in this shloka. Athanurupa bhiniveshatoshina kritabhyanugnya guruna gariyasa Prajasu paschat prathitan tadakhyaya jagama gauri shikharam shikhandimat. Atha is like once she had decided to tell him about her wish, or she told yachana anantaram eva. Anurupa abhiniveshita abhinivesha toshina guruna gariyasa guruna krita abhyanugnya prajasu Krita Abhyanugnya Gauri Shikharam Jagama. She went to Gauri Shikharam, which was filled with the Shikhandi, which was filled with a lot of peacocks. Very sadhu creatures were all there. It was not a big forest where there were a lot of wild animals, but it was more like a tapovanam, which was conducive for tapas. So Gauri Shikharam, she went to Gauri Shikharam. The Shikharam, the peak where she went and did tapas, came to be known as Gauri Shikharam later. Prajasu paschat tad akhyaya Gauri iti akhyaya prathitam Gauri Shikharam. The parvatam or the peak where she went and did tapas, it became famous later. Prathitam, it became famous later with that same name. It came to be known as Gauri Shikhara among people later. Sa Jagama. So she went to that Gauri Shikharam. She had to get permission from her father, right? So that forms the first half of the shloka. Krita Abhyanugnya. Sa, there is no sa or anything here. The word to indicate Parvati is just Krita Abhyanugnya. One who was given permission by her father, Guruna. Pitra, Gariyasa was also more Uttamaha Saha, Mahan Saha iti karanat, Gariyasa. He was maybe in comparison to her mother, I don't know, but that is not mentioned in the Vyakhyanam. Probably mother has that sentiment and she doesn't want to let go of the child, but then the father is looking at the longer phalam. And he's also looking at the greatness of the action that she is determined to do, she's determined to undertake. So that is why Gariyan Guruhu. So Gariyasa Guruna, by her father, who is more greater than greater. Adnala and the comparative varratinala, I am just trying to figure out whom is he greater than Abdin. Anurupa Abhinivesha Toshina, because he was also very happy that his daughter had a wish, a desire, which was Anurupam, which was Yogyam. Something that is fit for her. She did not want something which is nicham, but it is more something which was fit for a person of such a stature and for a person who had such a resolve. She Parameshwara also deserved to be wished for by him. Tapas paraspara tapas sampat phalayita paraspara. Each one did tapas to attain the other person. So, atha anurupa abhinivesha toshi guruhu. This is an adjective to the father. One who is very happy because of the desire that she has, which is anurupam, which is very appropriate to her, to her, in all ways. Pitra niyoga purassaram tapor anurupa desha praptim aha. Okay. So Pitra niyoga purassaram. The first thing that happened was Pitra niyogaha pituhu agnya. Niyogaha here is more like permission. He gave her permission for that. Purassaram. Starting with that, tapasaha anurupa desha praptihi api uchyate atra varnyate. So that she went to a place which was conducive for tapas, penance. Atha sa guruna krita abhyanugnya gauri shikharam jagama. Atha yachananantaram. After she asked her father through her sakhi, Vanavasa upakrama dyotakaha va ayam atha shabdaha. Either you can say anantaryartham or you can also say arambarthaha. Atha shabdaha can have many meanings here. So the Vyakhyata gives two meanings here. One can be anantaryartham, which is afterwards. After asking, she went to, she got permission and she went to Gauri Shikharam. You can take it as anantaram. The other meaning is upakramaha, that is beginning of another section. Now, until the 6th shloka, it was about the palace and how she was and all that. From this, it shows her resolve and her destination for doing the tapas. So, vanavasasya upakramadhyotakaha va ayam atha shabdaha. So, we can take this atha shabda to indicate dyotakaha, to indicate that it is the beginning of the description of Vanavasa, Gauri's Vanavasa. Guruna Pitra Krita Vihita Abhyanugnya Niyogaha. Sometimes Niyoga can be translated as appointment or something, somebody has given you a work to do, kartavyam, all these things also. But he takes it as Abhyanugnya, as a Niyogaha, as a permission here. So, yasyaha sa idam tu gamane hetuhu kanyakanam pitru paratantratvat pita rakshati kaumare iti vachanat. Kanyakanam pitru paratantratvat, because women are usually dependent on their fathers for permission. Kaumare, during young age, they are dependent on their father. Tadanantaram, vivahanantaram tu pati paratantriam, then it is putra. This is given in Manushastram. So pita rakshati kaumare. Gauri shikharam. That's why anugnya is important. Getting permission from the father to do tapas was important here. Gauri shikharam, himavat shringa vishesham jagama. She went to a place, a peak, one of the peaks in Himalayas. So Himalayas is a range of mountains here, and so she went to Gauri Parvat. Gauri Parvat vandu in the idula it's near in somewhere in the Uttar Pradesh or somewhere. Gauri Shikharam. There is also one set of steps in near Kailasa, it's Kailas mountain, which is also called the Gauri. அது பேர் என்ன ஸ்டெப்ஸுக்கு ஏதோ சொல்லுவாவா, எனக்கு தெரியல டக்குன்னு.
நேபாளி பாஷையில
என்னமோ நேபாளி பாஷைன்ல வேற ஏதோ சொல்லுவா அந்த இடத்துல. அது ஒரு கௌரியோட இண்டிகேஷன் ஒண்ணு அங்க இருக்கு, அங்கேயும் இருக்கு. So Gauri Shikharam, Himavat Shringa Vishesham, it's a type of one of the peaks of Himat Parvata. Anugnayam Hetum Aha. Why did Himavan decide to give permission? Because he realized that it was an anurupa abhiniveshaha. Abhinivesha is usually an involvement. Niveshahana, you're entering into something. Abhiniveshaha is more like a complete involvement or that extreme desire that you have. So anurupe, atma anurupe vare vishaye yaha abhiniveshaha abhilasha utkarshaha. So there is an utkarshaha, there is an extreme abhilasha desire in a person who is equal to herself. Atma anurupa here is not Himavat Parvata sadrishaha iti nasti. Atra atma anurupa iti Parvati anurupameva. Shiva was the ideal person for Parvati. not என்னோட ஸ்டேட்டஸுக்கு this is the best son-in-law kind of இது இல்ல. This is not a repeat of Daksha Prajapati. He was more arrogant in that manner. So Abhilasha Utkarshaha tena toshitum santoshitum sheelam asya. So toshi vardalya. Atha anurupa abhinivesha toshina. Toshi iti. So it is a sheelarthe and the nidiya adavu. Tatha toshe hetum aha. Again, he takes that gari as a idella vandu it is parikara alankara sabhipraya visheshane. He gives two visheshanas for Himodparvata. One is anurupa abhinivesha toshi. The second one, he gave permission because he was happy that she had chosen someone who was appropriate for him. Why was he happy? It was because he was a large-hearted person. He was a dhiraha. He was also a steadfast person. So, gariyasa guruna, dhirena, mahantaha hi, anurupa abhiniveshena tushyanti, napi aranya nivasat bibhyati. Great people will look at the desire and say yes for that because they realize that it is a very noble cause for which she is going for, and they won't fear the fact that she is going to go and stay in a forest, and they're not going to fear that. So that is why he says gyariyasa guruna iti. Gauri Shikara Shabdasya Anvarthatam Darshayati. Gauri Shikhara is the name that came up later. So Kālidāsa wants to note that sometimes it's always the kavi, because it is a padyam and it is not a natakam. There is always the element of the kavi's perspective in the kāvyam. It need not be only a biography. It can also be something of, it's like the kavi is looking through a lens and he is giving, see, she went to a place, she could just say she went to some shringam, some shikharam, but he didn't. He wanted to note the fact that it was called as Gauri Shikaram later. That's where the kavi's perspective also is put inside the padyam here. That play or that thing is not there in Kadambari or Natakas. The only way they can bring it in is by doing an utpreksha, saying aham manye iti. Otherwise, the kavi's perspective is never seen in those poetry directly like this. Yeah. So Paschat Gauri Nivasanantaram.
One more time, Gauri. So Kadambari is also written by a kavi.
It is.
Gadya Kāvyam. So, but what is the difference you're saying? Like,
okay, so நான் என்ன சொல்ல வரேன், அதாவது இப்போ காதம்பரி எடுத்து பார்த்தோம்னா it is a story. So the Kavi's responsibility there is to just narrate one incident after another incident.
Yes.
There is no back and forth in it. We are never privy to the timeline of the Kavi there.
Oh, okay. So okay, I see what you're saying. So it's the nature of the poem here is that we are aware that it is a poem, and Kālidāsa is writing it as a poem, as a series of events. But the Kavi is at the forefront and can converse with us and tell us that it is later called as Gita. So
if he was just relating the story, he need not have mentioned Paschat Gauri Shikaram iti Akhyam Pratitam iti. Kimartham tatra?
So this is a conversation with the reader directly. Outside of the text and the story in the text. Kadambari, you cannot say there is no such event where you're saying there is no such event where he steps out of the text.
So there is, in the sense, modalla vandu there are 25 shlokas which he has written. He has given a peek into sometimes. No, actually, adula illa. It's only in Harsha Charitam that he gives his life story there. Yeah. Even if you take Naishadham, ஒரு 2-3 சர்க்கம் பார்த்திருக்கேன், but then there is no Kavi's perspective. I have not seen such a reference there.
Yeah, so generally பேசுறது வந்து இல்ல, generally which can be taken as talking to the reader or informing the reader, அந்த மாதிரி இல்லன்னு சொல்றீங்க.
ஆமா.
Okay.
तावत्र गौरशब्दस्य श्वेतवर्णत्वमपि स्फुरति.
irkalam, but paschat tad akhyaya Gauri iti okay. But why?
No, Himalayas.
Because it is Himalayas. Okay. Paschat tad akhyaya prajasu prathitam iti. Paschat Gauri nivasanantaram. After Gauri went and stayed there, tad akhyaya. She has still not gone as far as the storyline goes. That's what I'm saying. So tad akhyaya, with that name, Gauri Shikharam iti akhyaya namna prajasu janeshu prathitam prasiddham asit. It then became famous with that name itself because Gauri chira nivasenaiva hetuna. Because she stayed there for a long time, that Shikharam, that Parvatam was called Gauri Parvatam. Hetuna janaihi Gauryaha Shikharam iti vyutpatya Gauri Shikharam iti giyamanam ityarthaha. So it is the place of Gauri. Gauri Shikharasya Visheshataha Ramaniyatvam aha. It was exceptionally beautiful because there were a lot of peacocks there. Shikhandimat, Shikhandinaha Barhinaha. Shikhanda vandu and the top portion solluva. It's not the toga illa. It's not the feathers, but it is more the tree and the konda madri irukku illaya. That is called Shikhanda. The peacock has a special crown crest kind of thing on its head. So Shikhandi is a peacock which has that. So Barhinaha, Shikhandinaha, Shikhandinaha tatra vartante iti bhumni matup. There are a lot of these peacocks in that Gauri Shikaram. So Anena, this is the part that we need. Anena keka alapa mayura nrittadishu vikara hetushu satsu api. See how the commentator connects with the Shiva's tapas here and saying that it is Anurupam. Parvati is also choosing a place where there can be a lot of vikara hetu, there can be many distractions for her. Still, she was steadfast in her tapas. So, keka alapa is the sound of the female peacocks, mayur and rittam, the male peacocks dance. And vikara hetushu, evamadishu, vikara hetushu, satsu api. Even though these reasons for distraction were present in that Gauri Shikaram, still, Devyaha dhiratvat, her mind was very steady here. That is why tapo lopa shankayaha abhavaha suchitaha. The absence of destruction of tapas. அப்படி எடுத்துக்கணும் இல்லையா? தபஸ்னுடைய ஒரு லோபத்தின் சங்கா துளி கூட இல்ல, அபாவஹா அப்படிதான். Again and the double negative. So tapas தபஸுக்கு உகந்ததாக இருந்தது அப்படின்னு உச்சிதம். விகாரஹேதௌ சதி விக்ரியந்தே ஏஷான்ன சேதாம்சி தயேவ தீராஹ. This was there in the first sarga that we read. Itivat, just as how when describing Manmatha's entry into it and Parameshwara was sitting there, there was no chalanam in his mind at all. Even though there is a vikara hetu, that is Parvati was present there, still his mind was completely involved in that meditation and it did not even move away from that target of meditation. Right? Tapas saukaryartham Dushta Sattvanam Abhavaha api anena dhvanyate. Not only are there distractions in the form of peacocks, the fact that there are a lot of peacocks show that there are no wild animals there. Dushta Sattvanam Abhavaha api anena iva dhvanyate. We understand that there is an absence of wild animals, like carnivorous animals. Nahi Sharduladi adhishtite deshe Shikhandinaha tadbhayat nivasanti. Tadbhayat, Shardula bhayat, out of fear for the tiger. Usually peacocks do not be in a place where it is predominantly filled with tigers. So Sharduladi adhishtite deshe Shikhandinaha na vasanti, prayaha na nivasanti. Right? If it is a tapovanam, it's a different this thing altogether. So atha anurupa abhinivesha toshina kritabhyanugnya guruna gariyasa prajasu paschat prathitam tadakhyaya jagama gauri shikharan shikhandimat.
Maybe the Shikantan is a very, very oblique reference to the birth of Kumara. Just வாகனம் இல்லையா?
வாகனம் சரி,
சொல்றேன் அவ்வளவுதான்.
அது சரி. உங்களுக்கும் கொஞ்சம் சங்கரியோட பைத்தியம் பிடிச்சிருத்தோம். இன்ஃப்ளூயன்ஸ் ரொம்ப ஜாஸ்தியா இருக்கு. Have to edit this out. Vimuchyasa haram aharya nist. The next one from this shloka, the beginning of her tapas is being described in the 6 shlokas. That is, what are the preparations that she did to go into tapas. Vimuchyasa haram aharya nischaya vilola yashti pravilupta chandanam babandha balaruna babhru valkalam payodharotseda vishirna samhati. Sa haram vimuchya aharya nischaya sa haram vimuchya, having let go of her mala necklace. She had a muktaharam, a pearl necklace on her neck, and she just let go of that. She forsaking the haram. Aharya nischaya, because her nischayam, the determination or the resolve that she had, was something that could not be removed at all. Haryam means something that can be removed. Aharyam, that which could not be removed. Ta aharyaha nischayah. Her resolve was so strong that you could not move her away from that decision at all. So aharya nischaya sa Parvati. Haram vimuchya, she let go, she took off her necklace, which was vilola yashti pravilupta chandanam. It was like a nice thick big pearl necklace. Vilola yashti, it was like a stick which was moving. Yashti akarena asit, and it was covered with the chandanam, pravilupta chandanam. Luptam, it had taken away chandanam from her breasts. So she had applied chandanam on her chest, and as the pearl necklace is something that is always there on her, and the chandanam will, when she keeps moving, the chandanam gets applied onto the necklace here. So which means the necklace has actually removed the chandanam from her breast. So vilola yashti, the haram which is like in the form of a stick and it is moving, by that hara chandanam praviluptam, chandanam hritam, it was taken away, ahritam iti tadrasham haram vimuchya. She took out that hara and wore valkalam. Valkalam balaruna babhru valkalam payodhara utsedha vishirna samhati valkalam babandha. So this is the haram or the pearl necklace is a sign of luxury, and she did not want to put on those alankaras which were more suited for the royal life. She had to change into bark garments here. So valkalam babandha, she tied valkalam to her chest here, which was balaruna babhru. It was babhru shining like balaruna, like a nava suryaha iva. So just as Udaya Suryam, just as the rising sun is reddish in color, in the same way, this Valkalam or the bark garment was also very beautiful. Babhru, it was beautiful like the young sun. So it was red in color. And Payodhara Utsedha Vishirna Samhati. As she was tying it, it was tough to tie it because yavana arambhaha asit tasmat dine dine parivardhamana also. She was in her youth. So as she was moving day by day, her breasts were also increasing in size, and hence when she tried to tie the valkalam, it was slowly slipping from its bandhanam. So vishirna samhati, the knot was loosening constantly because of her utsedha vardhanam of payodhara. Tadrasham valkalam babandha. She tied this valkalam. She replaced it with valkalam. Valkalam is not something which is soft, right? It's not kshaumam. It's not a silk garment. It is a bark garment here, and that garment will be rough. So the Vyakhyata explains all that in this. Atha Shadbihi Shlokaihi Tapasaha Upakramaha Varnyate. The start or the beginning of the tapas is being described in the 6 shlokas. Tatra Ado Tapascharana Anga Bhutam Valkala Bandhanam Aha. Even in Ramayana, the first thing that Rama did was, or Kaikeyi asked Rama to do, was to remove the Mangalakshomam and wear Valkalam. Right? Dadatho Mangalakshome Vasanasya cha Valkale Mukharagam Samam Dadrishuhu Janaha. Iti. Kālidāsa writes in Raghuvamsha, 12th Sarga. Whether he was wearing silk garments or he was wearing Valkalam, his face was the same. There was no Sukha Dukkhayoho Samatvam Tatra Mukhe Janaha. They could see that. Sa Haram Vimuchya Valkalam Babandha. She removed her haram and tied a bark garment on top. Haram parityajya stana avaranartham valkalam vakshasi baddhavati. In order to cover herself, she tied this valkalam. Idantu paridhana valkalasya api upalakshanam. Paridhanam na
inner garment.
உள்ள வெளியில இருக்கலாம் ரெண்டுமே, or the vastram, lower garment, is also called paridhanam. So vastram is always vastradvayam, இல்லையா? தததஹ மங்கள க்ஷௌமே வசானஸ்ய ச வல்கலே அப்படின்னு த்விதியா விபக்தியில இருக்கும் அதுல. So you are supposed to wear 2 vastram. One is the uttariyam, the other is the paridhanam, which is the lower garment. So valkalam, even though it is in singular here, it is indicative of the lower garment also. So paridhana valkalasyapi upalakshanam. Manohara hara parityage dusparsha Valkala bandhanecha hetu. Why did she have to remove that attractive haram, pearl necklace, and take on a bark garment which was difficult to touch? Dusparsha is very rough to touch. Aharya nischaya. Imagine a child who has been very similar to Rama here, who was grown up with luxury. At least Rama, he went with Vishwamitra and had a trial run with Vishwamitra to stay in the forest. But no trial run of any sort for Parvati here. She went from her palace to Sthanuvanam and came back, and she was living in luxury. And suddenly she had to do this. Similar to Sita, I would say, more than Rama. Right? Anna Sita ki vande, she did not wear bark garments. She wore proper in the clothes only. Kshaumam, silk garments. Aharya nischaya. Because she was steadfast in her resolve. Aharyaha anivaryaha, something that could not be removed. Tadrishaha nischayaha adhyavasayaha, an effort that she took. Resolve is the best way. Tathavida hara parityagasya anya dushkaratvam dyotayitum harasya manoharitvam aha. Anya dushkaratvam, it's very difficult for another person to remove a pearl necklace, whatever you are wearing. The moment you think you want to dress up, first thing you will wear is a nice big haram or a necklace or something. The first thing we do is add one extra necklace there. So it's the most difficult thing to remove in that change. So anya dushkaratvam dyotayitum, and it is also beautiful because it is chandana liptam asti. It is surabhi also. It is not just mere pearl necklace, but it shows that it has been there with her for a long time. It is like a permanent haram that she has. Usually we all have one chain that we wear permanently, and then the second one will keep changing. Right? It's something like that for her. That is why it was difficult for her to remove, difficult for anybody to remove, whereas Parvati just removed it easier. So Vilola Yashti Pravilukta Chandanam. Yashti Shabdena Atra Yashti Akaraha Hara Pradeshaha, Hara Visheshaha Uchyate. Not Hara Pradeshaha, but Hara Visheshaha Uchyate. It is a kind of necklace which is straight and like a katta madri irukku, yeah, like a yashti. It is not the pearls are very tightly woven such that it is just standing like a stick. It's not too swingy, or it will not break easily. Vilolaya chanchalaya yashtya praviluptam hritam chandanam yena tadrisham haram kuchatata harichandana ankitam ityarthaha. It is marked by the chandanam from her breasts. Kucha bhoge valkalasya anauchityam dyotayitum valkalasya dusparshatvam uktam bala aruna babru. Babru, it is Pingala Varnam. Okay. Babru, I thought it was more beautiful. Nanche. Illa. Babru Varna, correct. It's a tawny color, and it is also like the color of a new sun. Bala Arkaha Tadvat Babru Pingala Varnam. Anena Valkalasya Navatvam Dyotyate. It is not something which has been worn and washed several times. A new cloth is always much more rough when compared to cotton. Okay, so let's take cotton or even silk. The more wash it undergoes, the more soft the cloth becomes. So here the Valkalam is a new one. So it is still not, padappadala. Pakvam nasti. So it is not gone through a couple of washes for it to become very soft and limp and soft on the body also. Whereas it is new, so it is even more rough. Tena cha aprashanta kashayatvat atyanta dusparshatvam. That kashayatvam, the probably the freshness also has as a smell, and the redness that is there with it. It is still not gone from it. So that is why it is even more difficult to touch. Idam cha visheshanam harasyapi samanam. Okay. Tasyapi stana angaraga arunitatvat. Kunkumadi angaragaha vartate tasmat arunitam. So the pearl necklace could be reddish also in color along with the chandanam. So this can be an adjective for both. Tadrisham api valkalam. Tadrishe stanaboge gadham nibaddham. It has been tightly bound to her body here. So payodharayoho stanayoho utsedhena vardhanena vishirna vishlesham prapta samhatihi. Samhati is avayava samuhaha. Payodharayoho atimahatvena tad aboga pidhanartham valkalasya atyanta vistaritatvat tad avayavanam paraspara vishleshaha api tada jataha. Oh, okay. The parts, how an elastic is, when you pull it, the parts of it become very thinner and thinner. It becomes a little more spaced out. It is something like that. So payodharayoho vardhanena, because of the growing of her breasts, she is still in the Yavvana Parvam. Vishlesham prapta samhati, the parts of that Valkalam have slowly loosened out. So the samhati here talks about the joints. Probably it is not just one. You take the bark and try to stitch it into a garment. That is what they have done. You can't get one big strip of bark to do it. So the joints that they have stitched are slowly becoming loosened because of her growth. So paras avayavanam, tad avayavanam, valkalasya avayavanam, paraspara vishleshaha tada jataha. Athava yavvana arambhena pratikshanam vijrumbhamane. Either at the beginning when she was tying it itself, it was very, because she was tying it tight, the joints were loosening apart. Or pratikshanam vijrumbhamane payodhare sati. As she is in the youth and the body keeps developing day by day, tat sangarsha vashat, because of the sparsha with her body, paraspara visklishta avayava samuham abhuta valkalam. The parts of the valkalam became slowly loosened. Uktam cha shakuntale payodharayoho tatha vardhanam. Payo, இது பிராகிருதத்துல கொடுத்திருக்கார். Even in Prakritam, The context here is the Raja is hidden behind the tree, and then he sees the three of them, the three girls, that is Anasuya, Priyambada, and Shakuntala. They are pouring water to the trees there according to the wishes of Kanva. So Kanva has given them this work to do. Vriksha Sechanam Kartavyam iti. So they are doing that. So Vriksha Sechanam Nirupayati. Shakuntala, and then as she is doing, she becomes very tired and she comes and tells Anasuya, Ati pinadhena valkalena Priyamvadaya niyantrita asmi. See, I have been bound by Priyamvada because she has tied that Valkalam very tightly. Then Shitilaya tavat iti. So loosen it a little bit so that I feel at ease. Appo, Priyamvada, actually, she is the one who is கொஞ்சம் சூட்டிக்கையா இருப்போம். அதாவது அவளுக்கு வந்து her dialogues are always much more on a or Maitri level with Shakuntala. So she says, don't blame me for this tightness of the Valkalam. You blame your Yavvanam for this. Payodhara vistarayitru Atmanaha Yavvanam Upalabhasvana, you have to blame your own Yavvanam, which is making your breasts grow in this manner. So your body is changing and it is growing because of your Yavvanam. So don't blame me for tying it hard. So this is just a reference that he is saying about how Payodhara Vardhanat Tatra Valkalasya Shithilatvam Bhavati, or Shithilatvam is natural, right? Anena Tadrisha Yavvane Atyantam Asambhavitam Tapasi Ekagrachittatvam Pratipadyate Tenacha Prastutasya Utsahasya Utkarshaha. What does it say? Why Kālidāsa have to give such an adjective? This is a time of Yavvanam where the mind alapayardumbo. Yeah? The body is also changing, so the mind is also changing. There are so many different emotions that come in the mind. Kama vikaraha tu bhavantyeva thadrishe yavvane atyantam asambhavitam. It is very extremely impossible to even think that she can have a concentration in tapas. Tapasi ekagra chittatvam asambhavitam. Tenacha, because of that, usually people who are in Yavvanam will not have such a bent of mind towards tapas. So her utsaha utkarshaha prastutaha. So her it's like Veera Rasam. Yeah, so it's like she has one kind of a Veera Rasam wherein she wants to show that enthusiasm towards tapas. Atayeva uktam aharya nischaya iti api. So that's why he gave the other adjective of aharya nischaya. The alankara here is parivrittir alankaraha. Parivrittihi vinimayaha. Vinimayaha is actually an exchange. Yaha arthanam. Arthanam vinimayaha. The exchange of padarthas happen. Some kind of, it need not be an actual vastu, but it can be something, hridayam dattva kimapi adati. It can be anything. So arthanam vinimayaha, an exchange of objects, either sama or asama. You give something and get something in return. It can be an exchange of two objects which are equal in stature, or it can be an exchange of objects which are unequal in stature. I can give something of a higher value and get something of a lower value, or I give something of a lower value and get something of a higher value. Adu inge vandu she gives up haram, which is more luxurious or invaluable, which is very difficult to obtain, whereas Valkalam is present everywhere, assuming that it was in a yugam where there were more trees and not in Kali Yuga where people are cutting down trees. So which means Valkalam should be more available than haram, because haram would be available only for people of royal lineage. So she has given up that haram and taken on Valkalam. The other thing which makes the Valkalam of a lesser quality is also because it is dusparsham. It is a very rough material that she is actually exchanging for something which is beautiful and attractive. So parivrittihi vinimayaha yo arthanam syat samasamaihi. அதான் சொன்னேன். அந்த ஃபேமஸ் இது Parivrittri Alankara, which I really like, is two things in Tamil. One is Avvayarodhu, Palum, Telidhenum, Pagum, Paruppum, Ivai Nankum, Kalandu Unakku Naan Tharuven. Naangu. I will give you 4 items. 4 items in the form of payasam, which is Pal, Ten, the Kshiram, Madhu, and then Jaggery, along with the Paruppu, lentils. So, idellam kalandu unakku tharen. So, I will give you 4 items. You have to give me only 3 items, which is Sangat Tamil. Tamil literature, Tamil music, and Tamil nadagam, drama. So, usually literature is also along with that. But you have to give me these 3 treasures of Tamil. So actually she is, in words, she is saying that she is giving 4 things and asking for only something less. But the meaning of it is such that she is giving something like small naivedyam, but asking for a big thing. ஒரு வழக்கு இது ஒண்ணு சொல்லுவோம், விளக்கே திருவிளக்கே வெந்தன் உடன் பிறப்பே ஸ்ரீதேவி பொன்மணியேன்னு, இட்ஸ் வழக்குக்கு ஒரு சொல்ற ஒரு ஸ்லோகம், அதுலயும் வரும் அந்த மாதிரிதான். நான் வந்து I am lighting this lamp for you, Devi. You have to give me a house filled with jewels, filled with horses, everything. And then after giving everything, don't go away, stay near me. Ellam tandhen yan pakkathil nillum amma. So what you are giving and what you are asking for, eppovume there is a disparity in that when it is with regards to Devi or God. Yeah. And இன்னொன்னுதான் வந்து யாருக்குலோ சதுரர் அப்படிம்பார். நான் உனக்கு என்ன கொடுக்கிறேன், நீ எனக்கு தந்தது உந்தன்னை, தந்தது எந்தன்னை, கொண்டது உந்தன்னை. சிவசாயுஜ்யத்தை பத்தி சொல்லுவார் மாணிக்க வாசகர். It's also a beautiful பரிமாற்றம், barter system. விமுச்சியசா ஹாரம் அஹார்ய நிச்சயா விலோலயஷ்டி பிரவிலுப்த சந்தனம் பபந்த பாலாருண பப்ரு வல்கலம் பயோதரோத்சேத விஷீர்ண சம்ஹதி.